Well, welcome everybody to the Essential Leadership Skills, the podcast. Glenn Daniels, along with somebody that, I get a lot of good guests. And I tell you, every single one of them is good. They know what they're doing. They bring a lot of information. But here's a superstar for you. This gentleman, let me just give you, well, his name is Kelly Kotzman. Before I forget it, See, we've talked about this. But I get it right. Finally, Kelly, just tell me.
Kellen Kautzman.
Kellen Kotzman, thank you. But now, let me go ahead and just match you see my weakness. Let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about why this gentleman is a superstar. I'm not going to read the whole list, but here's what he has done just in the way of being on podcasts. It's been on the Entrepreneur Way Show, the Dr. Doug podcast, Money for Lunch podcast. We could go on for another 20 minutes, but I kind of want to stop there with Money for Lunch because this gentleman knows how to market. He knows how to get you into a position. We're going to talk about it a little bit, but as a leader, you certainly want your company to be well taken care of when it comes to marketing. He has a system that is just absolutely amazing. So he owns a company called Send It Rising Internet Marketing. So the first question I got for you, Kellen, is tell us, what about your company that you think everybody should know that's kind of unique, that maybe they don't know, but that's a little bit unique?
Yeah, to me, it's similar to looking at a basketball team. There isn't really too much unique about any singular basketball team because you're going to have players and they're going to try to get the ball into the hoop. And so all marketing teams are going to look like that until you become aware of the fact that, the Golden State Warriors went on an absolute tear. Well, why is that? It's because Steph Curry, it doesn't matter if he's 4 feet behind the 3-point line, he can still sink it. He can scare you from distance. And that's Alec Baba, our Google pay-per-click specialist. I've worked with people who are good at Google ads. I've met dozens and hired dozens of people that are good enough at Google ads. I've got 10 years of experience. I've done this, I've done that. But 98% of basketball players are good enough. Maybe 1% can make it to the collegiate level and play at a high level, and then 0.1% make it to the NBA and are the best of the best. And I don't know how Steph Curry is as good as he is, if it's genetics, if it was how he was raised, combination of those two things. He just is that good. And as a leader, it doesn't matter what's going on in my personal life. It doesn't matter what's going on emotionally. I have to create and maintain a culture where the Steph Currys of the world want to continue to work with me. And so I will literally, I begged Alec to stay with us because he can go make more money in other places. This is what leaders do. You got to swallow your pride and just go for it. So the fundamentals of things like Google ads are the fundamentals. And then every now and then you're blessed with someone who's truly exceptional. So that's just one piece of the puzzle. I could spend the entire episode going employee by employee and telling you why they are so incredibly good at what they do. And for the listeners, you may think, well, that's not very helpful because you're not telling me how to do it. And what I'm saying is, if you want to go learn Spanish, you can go become completely fluent using free resources online and making friends online. Like, you can go do that. And to achieve the same level of mastery in Google ads or Facebook ads or SEO or WordPress web development or whatever insert internet marketing item here, it's just like becoming fluent in a language. So no, you're not going to pop into Google ads likely and do quite well. You're not going to be able to compete at the highest of levels because it takes a lifetime of learning to achieve that. And so, no, I'm not the guy who's going to hop on shows and say, well, if you just take my course, it's like you can pay anyone on planet Earth to be your Spanish tutor. It's still going to take you 4 years, 5 years to get even into the point where you're somewhat comfortable, but good luck making jokes, understanding the nuance of the culture, getting cultural references, understanding stand-up comedy in another language. The ugly truth is that as an entrepreneur, you might have to, because you don't have any money and you're just going to have to figure it out, but you need to be sober about your skill set. and understand that until you can get to the point where you can draft incredibly talented people onto the team to do the work, that your non-excellence, sorry, you're not there yet, but maybe it's good enough to take you to the next level. And if you can get your head on straight and go, you know what, I'm not the best WordPress developer out there, but I built the first Send It Rising website. I am not a WordPress developer. You know, I did some of the marketing in the early stages of the company, and it wasn't that good. It is so much better now. I created reports for my clients in the beginning of the company, and the reporting we're sending out now is not even in the same universe. Mine were garbage compared to what we're doing now. And that's because I hired people that are better than me.
Isn't that the secret, though? Well, you talked about several things I want to get back to, but the secret is hiring the right people. How do you go about that? How do you decide, okay, I mean, you know the gentleman's skill set,
Yep.
but just because he has a great skill set doesn't necessarily mean that he's a fit to your organization.
Can you fire people is the number one thing. Are you capable of firing someone quickly and not going crazy? Because I have a heart out there for everyone. I want everyone to succeed. I want no one to suffer. I want all illnesses to evaporate now. I want everyone to find peace. I want joy to extend into every single person hearing this and to your friends and loved ones. I don't want any more unnecessary tears. I want peace on earth. I want heaven on earth. Okay. I also know that if I don't let go of XYZ person in my company, I'm creating hell for everyone else. So the people that are grinding and putting in the work and fighting hard, those people, to go back to the basketball analogy, they keep throwing the ball to the guy he's like smoking. Like, what is he doing? Like, he's not, he's like not looking. You throw the ball down and hits him in the knee. He's like, huh? And it's not like he wakes up every day and does drills and grinds and goes, okay, I'm going to do better. It's like he's not showing it. And those people that are smoking by the corner and the 3-point line, they have incredible resumes and they interview very well. Because do you know why? Because they're always interviewing. You're just like, wow, what an incredible interview. They're so talented at this interviewing thing.
Yeah, and how did you do that? How much practice have you gotten over the last 6 months? 10, 12 times? So yeah, of course. What's your mindset when you get, now this is not really what I want you to talk about, but I want to now, what's your mindset when it comes to building out your team?
Family, I mean, when I was a teacher, I was very frustrated in the structure of schools because, look, they're glorified daycare centers. Sorry, teachers. Sorry, administrative staff. I apologize. I know that you are doing everything you can to make it not a glorified daycare center. I'm aware of that. Third world countries are like, Kellen, you're an idiot. You have no idea how good you have it in the United States. How dare you even make a comment like that? I also understand that perspective. But the point I am making is that unless you have the ability to have some students not take place in a class so that other students can succeed, you end up scaffolding, which is the teacher's term for I spend 80% of my time with the 1 or 2 behavioral problems in the classroom, and focusing on the other students becomes very tricky. Now, those kids that are behavior problems, they may have alcoholic, abusive, crazy, single mom. Like, I'm not saying it's their fault, but what I'm saying is that there is only a certain level. There's only one teacher in the room, 26 kids, and you're trying to teach to the middle. And so the future is going to be, we're going to have incredible education reform in this country and worldwide, where the 3rd grader can be learning calculus. This is what you get in private schools. They go, okay, the student to teacher ratio is 7. Right. And so I can work with the gifted students, and I can put this, if this 4-year-old wants to learn French and Russian, he can learn both of those things. We don't bore our students to death in these environments, but it's a money thing. Right. I mean, it's at the end of the day. And so the mindset for that world, because I taught for a number of years, and I'm like a heretic for saying this. Like, if I ever go for another school related job and they see this, they're going to be like, can you please explain yourself? Like, why? Like, how dare,
But
but it's
just get
how,
the rejection letter, yes.
dude, seriously, like, we don't want to work with you. It's like, because you don't have a holistic approach to your pedagogy. But the reality is that in the business world, it's that they're in the education world, you'll just slog through it, even if the teacher's spending all of their time with a couple of kids that just need all their attention, keep disrupting the class, behavior issues, etc. And mind you, I was raised by teachers, and that's all they ever talked about. They'd come home and they would only talk about the behavior issue kids. It's every now and then like, oh, this kid's good, they're doing such a good job. There's some of that, but
Sure.
by and large, they're like, this kid, man, if this kid would just was. So when I got into business, this is an opportunity to create the super team of gifted, talented, incredible, amazing people that there is no weak link. There just isn't one. You know what I mean? Like, there is such a thing as a chain with no weak link. And when you put that together, you go, whoa, we can pull some pretty massive weight with this thing. And psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually over time, certain links will weaken. They're all incredibly strong and they can tow the boat, but you'll notice that certain ones will weaken. And what I'll talk to my staff about is I'll say, hey, look, after the call, I was like, I can tell that something's up. You don't have to tell me a single thing about it. I don't need to know the details. You can tell me whatever you want, right? If you want to share whatever, but I can tell that you're feeling it right now. I'm feeling it too. I was depressed for like a good 2 months. I've been crying recently. I've been going through it. You do not ever have to put on a face for any of our clients. You do not have to put on a face for me. Any person that needs you to be smiley, happy person all of the time and never be human is not someone we have to work with. So you have my full permission to be a human being, to go through what it is you're going through. And we're here for you because I know, because I've seen it before, that you are an incredibly strong person, and we're just going to make it through this period of time, and we'll see you on the other side.
Okay, so you had to make a mental shift there. Now, I don't know whether this is your discipline that you've had all along. I mean, you're a marathon runner. You're a lot of physical discipline you have, and a lot of mental discipline you have to get the knowledge and then reading the things that you do. Was there a time period where you made a shift from, okay, I'm going to do all the work myself, to I'm going to have to hire people who can do the job better than me? We had to check your ego to hire someone to do the job better than you.
So I was at a company called Advise Media Group, and I had an opportunity to buy in to the company. And so my wife at the time and I sold our home to be able to invest in order to get some partnership with that company. But I saw that thing was, what was that balloon that was about to that exploded? The Hindenburg.
Yeah.
The Hindenburg. It was the Hindenburg.
Okay.
I knew it. I was like, this whole company's going up in flames. I can see the writing on the wall. At the end of the day, leadership can just absolutely torch a company. And I just saw it. I saw major issues, major structural issues. And so I had about 6 months to a year to get my own clients and jettison. And so I went to BNI, which is Business Networking International. And
Yes.
It's for those of you that are unfamiliar, you sit in a room once per week with a bunch of other people who are business owners, electricians, plumbers, lawyers, dentists, and you pitch and you give each other referrals. So I did that for like 4 months, 5 months, and nothing was happening. Absolutely nothing. I mean, I was having meetings with everybody. I was saying the right things. I was getting interest. No one was closing. And I ended up crying with my then former boss and then business partner because he's like, hey, man, like, we need to close some business. And I'm like, I swear to God, I am doing everything I possibly can. I don't know what else to do. And then we closed one plumber client. I put an enormous amount of work. I made the right moves at the right time for him. And he started ranking like top 2, and he got rich, bought a new house, did the whole thing. Because plumbing, you can make a ton of money. If the phone's ringing all day, it's not that hard. And so anyway, he told everyone else. And then then boom, 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 boom. So I got up to about 10 or 11 clients by the time the inevitable happened. And then I was like, okay, I took one employee from Advise who's no longer with Send It Rising. She was only there in the early years, or the early like 6 months. And that's where I launched send it rising. And so to answer your question, it wasn't so much a mental shift as it was like I was in a war and we were losing that war, and I knew under the current leadership we couldn't win and it was going to explode, and so I needed to go start my new army to keep fighting my little mercenary squad.
You need to get that rolling quickly then, so you'll be set. So it was just the need to do it before you lost it that caused that to take place.
Yeah, and I look back on it and I go, man, I have a bit of PTSD from the whole thing, to be honest with you. I mean, there was so much pressure on me at that time to make it work, and there still is. It is such a cliche that leadership is lonely, but it's lonely. Like if you're a real leader and you are, because yeah, maybe you can go talk to other people who own companies, but they're just as stressed out as you are, like that, what I mean? And they can't talk about the nuances of your company with you, not really. So it's one of the things you have to give up if you're interested in being a leader, because nobody wants to hear you vent. If an employee vents to the boss, it's sort of, I mean, it's one thing, it's got its own dynamics and that can be bad for the employees too. But I mean, you cannot vent as a leader and expect there to be no repercussions, because you can completely tank morale of the whole company if you're just like, well, things aren't where they should be, and and people are going, and then like you have a real impact. So it's very important as a leader to try to develop relationships outside of your job where you can talk to folks, and kind of get it off your chest, so you're not sabotaging yourself in those meetings.
I kind of like the concept of establishing a relationship with somebody outside of your industry. Because within your industry, there might be a lot of, I want to say, motivation to support themselves than to support you a little bit. So get people outside your industry. But I want to ask you, because you said this, and it's kind of important, I think. I just want to have you just kind of maybe highlight it if you think I'm right here. Leaders, it is lonely, but you're human. You have to allow yourself to have those times where you're crying, depression. Men, you got to allow that to happen. What are your thoughts in that area? Does that make you better? Does it make you worse? Does it make you, because the only reason it might make you worse is because you appear to be vulnerable to people.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a man and you don't have the desire to cry, I don't know, maybe you're different than I am. And you just never feel that welling up of the tears, and you're just kind of going around, and then I don't really understand you. I get that this is kind of how you are, how you were born. But I don't understand you in the sense that I can't relate to that. I just don't, you know what I mean? I had a good stretch there of 6-7 years after my mom dies where I didn't cry really much at all. And that was a terrible idea. I mean, I remember crying maybe like 4 months ago and going, wow, I have not cried that hard in a long time. And over the last 4 months, it's as TD Jakes would put it. I don't know if you know that dude.
Yeah.
He's incredible. As he would say, it's a season of weeping. It's the whole season, and as he would put it, every tear, no tear is wasted, and it all irrigates the fields of future success. And so, yeah, man, dudes, if you're hearing me right now, you got to let it out. Let it out.
Because what happens most of the time, if you don't let it out, it's coming out and in the wrong way.
Just brutal. Being short with your kids, not thinking about what you're saying to your wife or significant other before you say it. And I'm sure there are guys listening right now or will listen in the future who are saying, yeah, not me, whatever. It's like, okay, that's fine. I mean, but in my experience, there is no substitute for it. And what it does is it cracks open your heart if you really allow it to occur, and you just open up your rib cage, and people will tell me their sorrows now, and it's not psychological anymore. I would always be like, oh, okay. I would start thinking about a solution, and then I would go, oh, I feel bad for you, but I didn't actually feel bad. That's the big difference. So now I'm like, oh, like I hurt alongside them. I'm like, like that pain that you're feeling, I'm also feeling it like that. That's super frustrating. And so this is the path of, of saints. This is the path of, religious figures and real leaders. Like if you listen to TD Jakes, we talked about him before. I mean, that dude knows what people go through as a pastor, as a preacher for many years. He'll say things like, don't blow your brains out. Like, I know there's someone listening to me right now who's suicidal. He's like, you're going to make it through this. I mean, that's reaching into the depths of humanity and understanding that for many people, it's easy to love others. Loving yourself. Oh, that can be very challenging.
See, the reason why I like going down this angle is because leaders, like I said, is very lonely. But it's mostly because of what you just said, I think. It's very lonely because we're so hard on ourselves. We're so wrapped in this idea of we're not perfect and we got to get better. We got to work harder. We got to work smarter. What we should do. All those type of things. And I think you bring up a good point about, we're not liking ourselves. We'll treat someone we don't know 10 times better than we treat ourselves.
Yep.
It just seems a shame. I want to ask you, because you brought him up, TD Jakes. And the reason why I want to go here is because those are people who don't know. They will know here right now. You're a prolific keynote address giver. You give a lot of keynote addresses, not so much this past year, because we're in the season of weeping. But you've spoken a lot to a lot of people. Who's one of the best people? If you're going to say, Glenn, you need to get better, listen to these 2 or 3 people to be a better speaker in front of people, well, who would you recommend?
So I'm going to answer 2 questions. So speaker, Rex, and then I want to talk a little about internal dialogue.
Yes.
So let me go on this internal dialogue thing, and then I'll talk about speakers.
Yeah.
So I used to try to beat into my head mantras. Like I used to go like happy, healthy, wealthy, wise, happy, healthy, wealthy. And
Robert Proctor.
Right. And what I realized was I'm not a dog. I'm not a 2-year-old. I'm a relatively intelligent human being. And so I don't want to listen to the same thing over and over again. It has the opposite effect. It's annoying. What I want is a very eloquent, nuanced, positive inner dialogue. So this whole think positive thing, it's like, okay, what do we mean? And for me, it sounds more like Kellen, and I'll talk to myself in the second person. I'll say you. I'll say, you're doing really well. You've got a lot going for you. Your kids are doing well. You're stepping up your exercise, which is really important. You're grieving, and so it's not just be happy. It's going to, you know what I mean? Like I'm really having a much fuller dialogue with myself. And if you don't talk to yourself, I also can't relate to you.
Yeah.
If you
don't talk to yourself and admit that you talk to yourself.
Thank you. Because for me, it's been a lifelong experience of just talking to myself. I do it all the time. It is an ongoing thing. And I've tried to not do it. Impossible. It is as impossible as getting my heart to stop beating or my lungs to stop filling with air. If I don't intentionally do it, it will be done for me.
Exactly.
So taking control over that dialogue and choosing to be positive, but not necessarily a mantra way, in a more, hey dude, in a more conversational tone, but arcing towards the positive is something that's taken me a long time to understand that works better. And then people that I think are motivational speakers, I can't name anyone other than TD Jakes, who I've been listening to recently, who is so good, because I've listened to so many, like TEDx talks, and I am on YouTube constantly. And so it's an absolute blur of people that I've received information from. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, kind of that same way, because if you're paying attention, to me, if you're using YouTube to learn, there's tons of information there.
Yep.
If you're using it to escape, you're not getting anything from it except for escapism, which serves its purpose to some degree, I guess. But there's, like TD Jakes, I would be curious to learn how he puts together his Sunday talks. Okay, I know how Joel Osteen puts his together, but I'd be curious to learn that, and I'd be curious to learn how. I used to teach a train the trainer class, and I think I was pretty good at it. But I learned that it says, I'm glad you started out with the inner mind, because that's what we're talking about. To be a good speaker, you need to have inner conversation with yourself that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The mantra stuff like that just doesn't work. I don't think. As well as talking about inner conversation, moving to a little bit of a different subject now. I want to talk about Send It Rising. You don't pay for your marketing, do you? Your marketing is word of mouth, isn't it?
So, two things. I want to talk about Jordan Peterson for a little bit.
Yes.
Jordan Peterson is not everyone's cup of tea. I found him fascinating for many years watching him. So I would have to put him in that column that nothing would come to mind, but he went through a very traumatic drug addiction to something that was prescribed to him. And then he had some severe side effects. And I don't eat meat, and I eat very little cheese, and I eat no eggs. So I'm kind of a vegan since March of last year. Okay. And I'm mentioning this because Jordan Peterson only eats beef. Like he has like an all beef diet. So I don't know what genetic precursor thing, life experience led him to that, because you clearly don't just eat beef, because everything's fine. Like he's got some issue that he's trying to work through, and that's where he landed. And then the fact that he ended up getting incredibly sick. I don't know if there's some, I don't know. The first thing I go to is diet. I'm like, whoa. I mean, that seems like a pretty crazy diet to me. Like, tell me that's not related. So that's kind of beside the point. His narrative is so fascinating to me because he went from relative obscurity as a professor in Canada to worldwide fame to I could care less about the money or the fame. And he couldn't even get through a conversation. He was absolutely rocked. You could see it. There was an interview with him. He cannot stop crying. He can't hold it together. He just went from the absolute top to broken, not functional. And that arc, to me, I can relate to it. I just think it's so interesting. And I don't know your thoughts on faith, or whether or not we're in some sort of test or just existential crisis in general, the soul, like just really diving deep into the spirituality of this particular existence. But I look at his story and his experience and I go, this is such a test, Glenn. It's such a test. And I am not of the mind that you can just be like, no, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Throw up your hands. You'd be like, no, this isn't, it is a grueling test. And I meet people who are like, no, things are going well and I'm doing good and that's cool. And I just think, okay, this may be true. This may be true for them. And I might just be like someone who is struggling through this life, and there are people who aren't as much. But I have a sneaking suspicion that nobody avoids it. That the test of our lives is truly, truly unbelievably challenging. and it will cut away at your ego. It will teach you things about yourself and others, and there's just no avoiding it. And so for those of you that are listening going, what does this have to do with marketing or leadership? Look at the greats. Muhammad Ali was in a cabin before some of these huge fights. Like, that dude was mentally got there. I am the champion. He fought through so much adversity. And wasn't he the one who protested the Vietnam War?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all you need to know about that guy. I mean, that was his biggest fight. Are you kidding? He's like, not going to do it. Superstar. He's like, nope. The political pressure, everything bearing down on this dude, that's spirit. So if you're serious about leadership, it is about the transformation of who you are as a being. And so stop thinking about it like, I'm going to, read this book about leadership skills. And it's like, no, you are going to go through hell and back in and back out and back in and get comfortable with it. And then you might come out the other end as a true leader, because people know that you'll lead from the front, regardless of what are demonic, hellish things are in front of you.
I read a book not so long ago, maybe a year ago now. Can't think of the title but it's by Doris Goodwin Kearns, and I think it's called Leadership in Tumultuous Times.
Oh, yep.
And she lays out 4 presidents of the United States that just had it rough. Now, Muhammad Ali, we don't really look at his early life, but you have to also remember Muhammad Ali was not very well early on in his career. He was not even very well liked by the people of his own skin color. Okay, he had a challenge with that, and then once he got more popular, of course, people started gravitating toward him, but he had a tough time. You look at somebody like Abraham Lincoln, you would be very surprised to realize that this man had bipolar. You'd be very surprised by that. You look at a gentleman who I didn't know this about him, Teddy Roosevelt. I had no idea that, the troubles he had with his health. We know the troubles Franklin Roosevelt had with his health, but we had no idea what Lyndon Johnson had. Lyndon Johnson had a heart attack while he was in the Senate. Everybody has these tough problems, but isn't it more about how you view that problem? I mean, we get hit by these things, and it's tough out there. Right now, I think our entire world has taken 4 or 5 steps backwards. Okay, and it's unfortunate that we have. But I'm asking you, do you think it's the view of it? Okay, I know I've battled through health issues myself, so I know I've taken some steps backwards.
Yeah.
But they're serving me. Okay. Do you think it's your view as a leader that says, okay, things are not working right for me? I got to cry about it. I got to sit down and just scream about it,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You better process it. You better eat that sandwich. You got to finish your plate, because if there was actually a way to avoid it with a substance, we'd have found it by now. There's people keep looking for it. And I didn't used to empathize with heroin addiction. I would go, why would you stick a needle in your arm? How do you not know where this road goes? That was my thought. I'll be very honest with you. Right. So it's a very judgmental thing to do and say, is to look at someone and just go, I don't understand it. Right. Oh, I understand it now. There are a lot of people who want to die. Yeah. And we don't talk about that. There are a lot of people who are like, you know what? If I didn't wake up tomorrow, I'd be cool with that. A lot of people feeling that way. And it doesn't get put out into the forefront, and it gets allocated into mental health world. So if you want to go into mental health world, sure, you can find all sorts of people that are willing to talk about their feelings, but it doesn't make its way into business world, which to me is crazy. That's crazy, because in this world of business, you better get your best possible mental state on as quickly as you can. And you know, if you're in rough terrain, you got to move through it. You got to pick yourself up and go in there anyway. And a lot of people are, you know, just trying to smoke it away, drink it away, think about something else. So at the end of the day, to answer your other question, which was how do we market ourselves? We blew $4,000 on Google ads, didn't see a dollar. So we did that. That didn't work. And then I reached out to someone I knew from years ago and was like, because I've been telling everybody, hey, look, commission. You refer us business, we'll give you commission, right? Everybody told everybody. And then boom, became our best partner. Like 2, 3, 4, 5 deals come flying in. It doesn't come from where you think it's going to come, you know, many times. So your mind is sure that it's going to be X, Y, Z. To me, it's chess. I play a ton of chess. If you want to be an excellent leader, let me highly recommend chess and speed games. Play 5-minute games. And what you'll realize is you'll learn things like sometimes you have to sacrifice the queen to win. And if you can't wrap your head around sacking the queen, then you'll just never get to a certain level. If you can't get your head around sacking a knight to gain a positional advantage, you'll just never get to that next level. And if you can't get used to losing a lot, you can't get to the next level. And so chess is an amazing teacher. It's literally a yin yang. In Chinese culture, there's something called the bagua, which are the 8 lines that are either solid or disconnected, and they represent heaven, earth, fire, water, lake, swamp, plains, mountains. And so literally the chessboard is an 8x8. So it's like a manifestation of this bagua. So it is this ancient and gorgeous a game. There's a reason it never went away. It stood the test of time. And it will teach you patience. It'll teach you, as you become a leader, you may find that you work less, which is very weird. And you would think that it would be awesome. You're like, oh, I'm working less. This is so great. Until you realize that you are always concerned. So you may not be working. You may not be shooting out an email, but the next move you make better be the right move. Are you going to spend that 4 G's on Google ads? Okay. Well, guess what? It was a blunder. It was what it was, man. It was a blunder. You blundered a piece. Okay. You lost your knight for a pawn. So that's bad. Okay. So now you're in this poor position, but guess what? Your heartbeat's racing. Everything's bad. It's objectively bad. It's not like high and all, like, no, it's bad. So now you have to work your way out of it. And chess teaches you that.
Because chess teaches you to get 3 to 4 to 5 movements ahead.
That's right.
And that may mean, like you said, sacking the queen.
Yep.
Make a mistake, though. So if you can get that mental discipline there, you probably will easily carry that forward into the business world.
Yeah, because you need to get used to lines. So in chess, they'll be like, well, bishop c2, rook h5, pawn cd, queen h3. That's one line. And then there's another line, which is da 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 da. And then there's another line. Da, da, da. And so you're calculating like 4 or 5 lines. And then you go, which one of these lines do I prefer the most? And then you make a move. Now, I don't have time to be sitting around all day playing chess in like 10-minute games. So I do a daily game with a friend. So I make like 1 move a day, maybe more, depends if he moves. And then I play a bunch of blitz chess, 3-minute, 5-minute, where you have to make quick decisions. So you lose a lot, but you learn a lot. And so, yes, business owners, you can go read yet another article about Facebook ads or watch one more training thing or one more inspirational video, or you could also use the ancient wisdom that is chess to learn a lot of these things, because you have to feel it. This is the primary thing. If you don't feel that loss, you can't train what you're going to do when you lose it. You have to get used to that.
All right. Do you think, because you do have to get used to that, but do you think the idea that you're starting to train your mind to think in lines, think ahead of the game, it becomes more natural and easy for you to hire the right people or to make the right decisions to say, okay, this ad's going to work or this ad's not going to work? Do you think it puts you in a frame of mind that creates that kind of success for you?
Yeah, I mean it's not okay to refer to people as pieces, right?
No, yeah, no, yeah, great.
That's a horrifying thing to say. But if I'm the king, it starts to make a little more sense, actually. If I'm also a piece, right? So I'm not saying, look at them, they're pawns and these people are whatever. But if you look at the structure of any organization, it's just like a chessboard. Sorry, if it were something else, then fine, But the way that the pay is structured, and then what you realize is that the king has a lot of flexibility, and you have to protect the king. But the king just hides, right? King hides in the corner, just protect the king, just quick protect the king. The queen is the star of the show, but you don't want to throw the queen out early because everything just chases the queen around. You can't overwork the queen. The queen has to play a supporting role, even though she's the most powerful piece, and then the other pieces have to go in. So yeah, I want to be one of the main drivers of the work from home revolution. The fact that people are going back to the office now sickens me. I know that people die every day on the road, and there are many, many, many more people who have a dislocated neck or a disc or herniated disc or back surgery or whiplash or migraines for the rest of their life. And so the suffering that generates throughout lifetimes makes for kids who's like, yeah, mom always had a headache, or mama can't really, pick me up, or just the karmic retribution, it's ridiculous. And we're forcing people back into the office. What? How dare you? It is the most egregious mistake that I can think of. It drives me insane.
How do you just play devil's advocate with you for a second?
Yeah.
Some places claim that productivity has dropped off greatly when people have not been in
failure of leadership. Sorry, okay. They're not. Nope.
I'm going to make sure that everybody hears that, because if you're not being productive with your team off-site, are you really being productive with them on-site?
Exactly. Look, I don't have an architecture firm. Okay. I don't own Google, right? There are nuances, there's security clearances, there's the transfer of information in certain areas. You know what I mean? So yes, I'm ignorant. Mm-hmm. You're right. I am. But my business, this and that. I understand. I get it. But you got to understand that work evolves. And this, at least I can say this 100%. If you own a digital agency, there's absolutely zero reason. I can guarantee you for a fact that you don't need office space. You simply don't. And what you're doing is you're passing on the costs of the space to your staff. And you're paying your employees less and you're charging your customers more because you have the office space that you so desperately want and need and are addicted to. And then you are running the risk of killing or maiming or hurting any number of people because you're putting people into these death boxes. There will come a day in very short order in the next 10 to 15 years where people will look back and go, I cannot believe that people used to die in cars. There's going to be it's going to be the craziest thing. People used to die in I cannot believe to go get a cup of coffee. People were lost legs. It's absolute madness. And so
it is. One of my relationships with the company, non-disclosure, but a Defense Department contractor. So they have a huge contracts. And they, throughout the pandemic, everybody went home. Okay, they're working from home. And then they started realizing, people miss human contact. So when we do get back together again, we're going to allow people to come to the office only if they want to. Then they went one step further and said, you know what? We're going to allow people to come back to office for a movie night. Okay. Hey, everybody come back to the office. Meet us in our auditorium. We're going to have a movie night, and you guys do whatever you want to, but go back home and work. They required their managers to get more locked in on what that person was doing, to make contact with that person their team every single day, so that productivity never stopped. If a United States defense contractor who has all the security clearances that you want to think about, they can do it. Don't know too many. I agree with you. I don't know too many people, too many companies that can't do it.
Yeah, amen.
So that goes into digital marketing a little bit, but I'm only reason it goes there because I'm gonna push it back there for us. But I want. What do you do? What does Synod Rising do?
So when people come to us, we're like a doctor. Okay, we look at your body, which is your company. I mean, it's literally a corporation, cuerpo, body.
Yes.
Corpus Christi, right?
Yeah.
The body of Christ, a cuerpo. So we look at your body and we go, okay, what are you doing? What are you not doing? What should you be doing? How can we help? SEO, ranking in Google. Everyone wants it. Most people don't have a clue about whether or not investing in it makes any sense. And there's so many companies that simply say, oh, you want to do SEO? Great. Write me a check for $900 a month and we'll do SEO for you. And then the client says, okay. And then they do it. And then a year from then, they're like, wow, it didn't really work. And the company goes, ah, shucks. And then the company moves on and they're like, I just blew like over $9,000. Like, what was that all about? We don't do that. So if you come to us and you rank nowhere, we say, you rank nowhere. Okay. You're nowheresville. And I'll let you guess how many competitors you have. Real estate agent in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay. 20,000? You tell me. What are the chances you're going to outperform all of the work that they do? I mean, you're like a 6-year-old and you're looking up at LeBron being like, how long until I can take him? A year and a half? You're like, no. So we say, okay, are you doing any YouTube videos? Do you want to produce them yourself? Okay. Do you have a Google Maps location? Great. How many reviews do you have? Okay. Are you running Google ads? Let's take a look. Okay. What's your Google Analytics look like? How much traffic are you getting? We look at all of it and we go, okay, you're a retro dress store who posts once a month on Instagram. Okay. Like there's so many obvious glaring things. And then sometimes they're like, we're actually doing a good job. This happens from time to time where they really are. They're doing a good job, but they're like, we're so over it. We can't keep this up. Like, we know that we're doing a good job with our marketing, but we need help. And it's like, okay, well, here's the things we could take off your plate. So at the end of the day, I can't say that for any client, we're going to do X because it doesn't make any sense. You don't want that. You want someone who understands what's going to work for an individual company. And that's why the proposals are customized. They have to be. It doesn't make any sense to do boilerplate. We'll do this, but generally we blog for clients and we do 800 to 1,000 words because 300-word blogs are referred to as zombie pages now, and Google hates them. So basically, too many people are creating too much content that nobody reads. And it's clogging up the works, basically. So they're trying to index all this stuff, and every page or every day, like 75 million new pages crop up, and like 500,000 of them anyone is actually going to ever read or index. Like, I shouldn't say index in Google, but do well in Google for a short period of time. And so you really have to hit home runs now. You have to swing for the fences when you create blog posts. You can't just you can't just bunt. It doesn't work anymore. And then you create a bunch of custom graphics to go along with that blog. You maybe do a video to go along with that blog. And then the photos, custom stuff goes on Instagram, it goes on Pinterest. And then you got to have an excellent Google Ads person, which we absolutely do, to look at it. You got to run Facebook ads, Instagram ads, potentially. You can take a look at LinkedIn. The website has to be so good. It's 2021, man. I mean, your website is so incredibly important, and people still want budget sites. They're like, can you do it for 600? Like, no, we cannot. I mean, we're like 3,500 bottom, because you need custom graphic design. Stuff should be flying around. It should be a work of art. It should be gorgeous. It has to be fast. It has to be mobile friendly. It has to be SEO'd with Yoast. There should be tons of content on it. There should be landing pages specific to your keywords on it. And if there's an e-commerce or if they want to schedule an appointment, all these things have to be flawless, no typos, and it has to look good on every browser and every mobile device with Google Analytics installed and Google Search Console installed. So no, that's not a small thing. And having to work with the aesthetic of the client, right? So it's not just what we want, it's also what they want, all the revisions that go into that. Yeah, I mean, 3,500 is cheap for everything that goes into a project, a web project. So a lot of people have in their minds that, and you can go to Fiverr. Someone can crank out a website for you real quick, but you do a speed test and you're like, wow, I got an F. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to be like, I don't know what to tell you,
Yeah. And that's a challenge. It is a challenge. There's also a mental challenge to let go and say, okay, I'm going to spend $5,000 on this website.
Yeah.
I mean, for the longest time, my site needs to be redone. That's the honest truth, I believe. But for the longest time, I didn't believe speakers needed SEO sites. You don't search for me as a speaker. If you find out who Glenn Daniels is, then you go look. But it's not a thing of speakers for my convention or speakers for my trade show or you don't put in that. You don't search for those type of things. Speakers on leadership. I don't think people search for that. I'm wrong. Tell me how I'm wrong.
So most speaking organizations have so many speakers to choose from that they don't care about you at all, because there are tons into every business owner's like, I'm a speaker. Everybody's a speaker. Okay, you throw a stick, you hit a speaker. And really now what they want is two things. One, if you rank really well, it's a precursor to how much energy you've put in. But good luck ranking without doing a ton of YouTube videos now. I mean, it's really hard to rank unless you're also doing what we're doing now, because everyone's doing this now. The pandemic forced this cultural shift. And so it begs the question, okay, well, how many videos have you done? Okay, well, now you're looking on YouTube and they get a sense of who you are. If you rank well for, say, like leadership speaker, bro, on a national level, you're like a Simon Sinek. I mean, you're real popular. And the reason you're so popular is because you wrote a great book and your Instagram's really strong and you've got a bunch of Twitter followers. And so you're not even going to get into the top echelons unless you're also doing everything else. So it used to be create a great website, blog a bunch, and you could do it. And their Twitter followers would be like 300. Now look at the top 5, 10 people for leadership, speaker, whatever. They're all very popular books, tons of reviews on Amazon, tons of YouTube videos, hundreds of thousands of views. So SEO is social media at this point. Sorry.
Well, okay. So I use my speaking career just to get a little bit of coaching from you, but let me just put it out there for the actual listening audience. We're talking about nonprofit, government financed, healthcare, educational, hospitality people who need to increase their visibility so the government will continue to give them money. They have more room to go out and say, hey, we have, instead of having 200 students, we now have 300 students, increase the grant. Okay. Or we want to increase our grant. We want to increase our visibility. We want the community to say, think of us first for KinderCare. The same thing applies, doesn't it? You got to get your digital presence right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, give it to the intern. This is what people do, especially at like the United Way or like different nonprofits and stuff. It's like you'll have a VP of marketing who's grinding it out. But when it comes to the new stuff, it's like there's only so much they can do. So like, are they on TikTok? Are they on TikTok? Give it to the
is about right. It's a tacky
yeah,
thing.
give it to the intern. They'll do it. But yeah, if you're serious about your digital presence, it's go get a specialist as an eye surgeon. Years of training to understand all this stuff, years of experience to understand the nuance of it. But you better start, or you better have budget to find someone, because come on, 2021, where else is anybody? We're all online, all the time.
All online.
Constantly. This is it.
How do we see you online? Is there a website we can go to?
Yeah, if you want to talk to me, senditrising.com, senditrising.com. I have a personal website, kellenkautzman.com, KELLENKAUT as in Tom, Z as in zebra, MAN, kellenkautzman.com. Easiest way to reach me is info at senditrising.com. And
I'll talk. You're going too fast for me. Hold on.
Well, I've done this before, info at senditrising.com.
Okay, so senditrising.com is your website. KellenKautzman.com
is you got website. It. Yes, sir. Yep.
And then your email is info.
Yeah, at senditrising.com.
If I could type better, we would have it up already.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. So I'll talk to anybody. So if you reach out to me, people are surprised, but just send me an email. If you want to chat, I'm still a teacher. I still love walking people through it. Just email me.
Well, that's good. Let's push the button. So hopefully I got everything spelled right so everybody can go ahead and just copy things down.
You did send it raising instead of send it rising.
Sure did. And probably did info raising.
Yeah, you sure did.
All righty. Well, you spelled it for them. So we're going to just hide that.
Yeah, you're fine. They get it. It's fine. Not that serious.
Oh, raising. Okay. Anyway, so raising the temperature a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So you don't really have any books out? I
do. Yeah.
Tell us about those real quick.
Yeah. I wrote a book called Everybody's Doing It, Advertising Redefined. And the thesis is that advertising is an innate human quality. So the first advertisement you do as a baby is cry, and it gets all your needs met. You get milk, you get attention, they change your diaper, it's everything. And as a business, the first thing you do is cry. You just got to be loud and annoying and just get people's attention, and just whatever it takes to get their attention. And so if you're an adult, you're not crying like a baby's crying, but you're basically crying. I mean, you gotta make a stink to get those first few clients. And then as you get older, your advertising changes, just as a company changes as it grows and it becomes more sophisticated, more nuanced. But we all advertise. We advertise in our romantic relationships. We advertise in sports. Good example would be you come home and a terrible ad would be, "Hey, that ad sucks." A better ad would be, "Hey, tell me about your day. I want to hear all about it." And that's a great ad because it gets their attention and it locks them in. So same thing with Facebook. "Hey, people, tell us about your experience with X. If you're a car crash attorney, tell us about, what you had to go through." That's a better ad. And so we can learn from our relationships and apply these techniques to the business world and vice versa.
I like that. You and I, we have this habit. We like to talk a lot to each other. So I think we easily could spend another 2 to 3 hours just talking. But I want to ask you, what questions did I not ask you that you wish I would have?
If I have a hard stop at 1 p.m.
Yeah, you probably do, because I know how busy you are. I guess it's about 30 seconds. So.
You're the best. I had an absolute blast here. I really appreciate it. You're a great interviewer, a great listener, and it really is an absolute pleasure. So I thank you very much for having me on the show.
Yep, and I know we have a hard stop in about 15 seconds, so I'll say this for you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, go listen to the work that Kellen is doing. Just go to work. You'll love it. Senditrising.com. You'll love it. So thank you very much.
All right, Glenn. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.